If you have a BRZ, FR-S, or GR86, I have two questions for you. One, why are there so many freaking names for these cars? And two, why does it come with Prius tires from the factory?
Why?
Well, we don't know the answer to either of these questions, but I can tell you what wheels and tires you should be running on your 86 or FR-S or BRZ, or whatever you want to call it. This wheel and tire fitment guide is specifically for the 13 to 21 86, also called the BRZ or FR-S, but realistically, the second gen fitment is like very close to the first one, so we're probably not going to make a second gen video just for you. To keep this article consistent, we're going to be focusing on original stock body cars. There are simply too many wide body kits on the market to make a cohesive guide that includes them all. If you have a wide body car, guess what? Fire up email and go, "Hi, three-piece, I need wheels for my wide body BRZ." These cars, being rear-wheel drive, front-engine manual, they come with a free track day, heck, even out of the box. We're going to look at setups that are specifically geared towards track driving as well as fitment for daily drivers and stands and show cars. First, let's talk the basics you need to know. So, basic fitment info first. As always, lug pattern 5x100, lug thread M12x1.25, center bore 56.1mm, and lug torque 90 foot-pounds because it is made by Subaru. The 86 platform gets a 5x100 bolt pattern except the new WRX is 5x114, which kind of sucks. Referencing our website, we have over 50,000 wheel options in this pattern. Not bad, but compared to 5x114, there are only about half, and I kind of doubt that number, options. You should be able to find the perfect wheels that bolt on without having to jump through flaming hoops, although you can do a 5x114 stud conversion if you want to jump through those hoops. You could consider converting your car over to 5x114.3. The other option is buying 5x100 to 5x114.3 conversion spacers, but who wants to do that because the offsets on this car are already relatively high and you're going to just make your fitment look like poop. Companies like GK Tech make a bolt-on kit, so does PBM, but is it worth $800? Well, probably not. A lot of wheel manufacturers, including Heritage Wheel, us, hi.
Knock. Who's there? You.
Cater to the 86 crowd by offering their products with suitable specs in 5x100 PCD. Unless there are specific ultra-rare vintage Japanese wheels that you just have to have, it's easier to select wheels in the correct PCD. Now let's talk about the 2017 Plus BRZ Performance Package. The BREMBOS that come with the Performance Package will clear most wheels, but not everything. They're not super huge brakes, but the minimum diameter of your wheels will need to be at least 17 on a monoblock or 18 on a three-piece. You wouldn't want to go smaller anyway. Some of your favorite wheels may not clear depending on the specs. Monoblock wheels do have varying spoke designs depending on the exact width and offset and model. RPF1s, for an example, will fit with 17 by 8 plus 35 but not 17 by 9 plus 35 for some godforsaken reason. For the most complete list of go or no-go wheels, we're going to include a link down in the description to a post on FT86 Club that goes over that. So let's get into some examples of what fit on these cars. First up, Rota Gravel 18 by 8 plus 44 with Firestone Indy 500 235/40/17 tires. This one is on a 2017 BRZ Performance Package with the BREMBOS with no spacers needed, Eibach lowering springs. Rota Gravels are confirmed to fit on these brakes without needing spacers, at least in this specific width and offset, the 18 by 8 plus 44, which is a pretty high offset wheel. As far as fitment, these are only slightly more aggressive in terms of poke than stock wheels. They will give you about a 1/4 inch of poke, and in the same vein, the tires are sized up to 235/40, which is just a little bit bigger than stock. Extra contact patch with sporty 340 treadwear tires make this car more stable during cornering. These specs are very similar to stock, therefore no fender rolling was needed. If you were looking for a setup, you can just go on our website and click the buy button. Click the buy button and just have shipped to your house and bolt on your car. This is pretty close. Next up, some Wedsport TC105X 17 by 9 plus 35, wrapped up in Michelin PS4S 245/40/17s. Same setup in the rear, this one's square. It's on RCE yellow springs with no rubbing, and the wheels are confirmed to fit over the BRZ Brembos. Pay attention to the numbers on this one. A lot of 86 owners are running similar specs with either 17s or 18. Gets you flush fitment without adding much or any unsprung weight. A 245 tire is the key to this fitment, as anything larger will likely require the fenders to be rolled, and also probably too much tire for what you need. Whatever size of tire you decide on, PS4S are the GOAT. They are the GOAT. They are the best tire ever. If you have the money. If not, there are lots of comparable options. This car is on lowering springs and it does not have any rubbing issues. You knew they were coming. NK RPF1 17 by 9 plus 35, Maxxis Victra BR1 255/40/17 tires. As I said earlier, these will not clear the BRZ Brembo without spacers. These are the same specs, but with a 255 instead of a 245. To get this to fit, you need to do a little bit of fender rolling depending on the ride height, or if your stock height, I wouldn't run the stock height. Either way, go thinner and don't miss with the fenders, or go a bit wider and bust out the roller or phone book or jack handle, whatever whatever you are into. The options for RPF1s in 5x100 are relatively limited. These specs should work great unless you have a BRZ with BREMBOS, in which case they will not clear without 8mm spacers, bringing your effective offset down to plus 27. They might be some of the most popular wheels for this platform, and for good reason. They're very light, they're very strong, they're just a great wheels. RPF1s, I don't have to sell you on them. The only issue is the limited sizing options in 5x100. Next up, T37SL, 18x9.5 plus 40, Nitto NTO5, 265 35 and 275 40 tires. Slight roll on the front fenders, roll and pull on the rear fenders, some rubbing. To run these specs, you'll need to do some fender work, but it is worth it if you plan to add a turbo or supercharger kit, or up the power, or K-swap it, or put in LS, or just do something to fix that 200 horsepower issue. Both TEs and RPF1s are popular and super light. They're not going to make the car feel overly lethargic, even on stock power, although we would recommend this setup, specifically the tires, for cars making significantly more power than stock. Believe it or not, fitting two 65/35s is not that complicated in the front, only needing the fender liners removed and some light rolling, flattening out that fender lip. Two 75/40 in the rear did require pulled fenders and trimming inside the fender well. Even with this, there is some light rubbing in the rear, but that is to be expected on a, more performance-oriented setup. The fronts are fine. So we're gonna look at some stance fitment. The majority of you guys with 8.6s uploading them to our gallery are absolutely slammed, dumped on coilovers or air suspension, so it's only right to show off a few. You can assume everything from this point on has rolled and possibly pulled fenders. Stance setups are not really congruous to each other. You kind of have to bolt the wheels, the tires, and suspension on and then make it work, right? They're clearly accepted ones, but generally speaking, you just bolt it on and make it work. First one, Meister S1 3P, Workmeister S1 3P, 18.9.5 plus 24, 215/40, Falcon FK460 tires. This one is on air, no rubbing when it's aired up. Some of you may not like air suspension on a sports car, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do to fit the wheels you wanna fit. This 2015 FR-S is sitting on an airlift performance kit with Workmeister S1 3P wheels, which is pretty much the formula for a cool JDM style FR-S. This car is still running 9.5-inch wide wheels, but with a lower offset than the previous one. It needed stretch tires plus a bit of extra camber to make it fit. 215s on a 9.5, you are freaking wild for that one. There is not a ton of information on the extent of suspension work on this car. There's not a lot on a lot of stance cars, but it probably has some rear arms to dial in the camber. Fender to lip fitment doesn't happen just by chance or on stock adjusters. You have to order the correct wheels and then play with alignment settings to dial it in perfectly. Next up, we've featured this car before. It is so cool. SSR GTX03, 18x9 plus 7, 215/35/18, SSR GTX03, 18x10 plus 16, effective plus 4 with a spacer, 215/35/18, 12mm rear spacers, air suspension, no rubbing when aired up, extreme aggressive setup, obviously. This 2014 BRZ is on a kit from Airlift Performance, probably one of the most common kits for air suspension on these cars. These wheels are significantly more aggressive, especially in the rear, where a 12mm spacer was used to bring the offset to plus 4. So what's needed to make them fit on the factory metal? This car has even more camber and even more tire stretch than the last one. Plan on investing in a full set of suspension arms, camber, toe, traction, all that stuff, along with the wheels and the air suspension kit. Building a stance car can be pretty darn expensive. This one is on work VSSDs, 18x9.5 -3, effective -28 with Lionheart LH5 with 225/40/18 tires. Same fitment in the rear, 10.5, -23, 225/40 tires. Godspeed coilovers. Wheels, obviously rub the fenders. 25mm front spacers, 15mm rear. Most of you are not going for the Ani camber look, but for that one guy who is watching this video, here you go. This throws all drivability out the window, especially because it's static, not on air. If you plan to go this low on coilovers, it's gonna rub, it's gonna scrape. You can hit a pebble in the road and you're gonna destroy your oil pan. This car's past stance and more in line with, as I said earlier, Ani camber fitment. Regardless of the type of fitment that you are going for, you are going to definitely want to upgrade the wheels and tires on your FR-S. It is arguably the first mod. I always call them FR-S. I know there's 5 chassis. It's arguably the first mod you should do to your 8.6. Unless you're doing a full motor build or a K-swap or an LS, you don't need to go crazy. 17 or 18, 8.5 to 9.5 wide with a 245 tire will give you all the grip you need. You do not need 275s for your 200 horsepower. You can find most of the cars featured here in our vehicle gallery, along with many more FR-S BRZs in 8.6. Please feel free to add your own car after you fit the perfect set of wheels that you get from our website. You can click the link down here below in the description. Get them with the tires mounted, balance, TPMS sensors, lug nuts, all that fun stuff shipped to your door, ready to install. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, drop a like, drop a comment, hit the subscribe button, let me know what we should do a fitment guide on next, and I will see you in the next one.